All right, so are you someone who struggles with hearing the key quickly? All right, then what about when it comes to a minor key? Are you always knocking that out of the park then? Well, if you're someone who struggles at times with hearing the key, finding it really quickly, I'm going to help you in this lesson by giving you some practical tips and some ear training exercises you can do to help you to be able to hear the key and train your ears to be faster. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so jumping right into this lesson, this is something that's come up for me in multiple one-on-one either coaching calls or like lately I've been having these one-on-one consultation calls with people who are on my email list, and I'll talk more about that later if you want to be a part of that. But one of the common themes I've been hearing from a lot, not the majority, but a lot of bass players, more than one, and I have this rule. If one person has the question, then at least 10 other people have that same question. So for the sake of the possible 10 people who might have this question, I wanted to do this lesson to help you to quickly identify the key, because I do realize that it's an issue for a lot of people. All right, so what do we do when we have a song that happens to be in a minor key, or we just can't hear the key altogether? So there's a few things we can do first and foremost. So my first tip that I want to give to you guys, now this tip is going to sound really elementary for a lot of people, but it's one that I believe a lot of bass players overlook. The first thing, tip number one, listen first before playing. You would be surprised how many bass players, and you might be one, who listen to like 30 seconds of the song and say, oh, I got it, and start playing. And so what you thought was the key, 9 times out of 10, you're probably right if you have a pretty good ear. But that 1 time out of 10, especially if the song starts in another position, like on the 2 or the 6 or something like that, it throws you off and you're thinking that the song, let's say, for instance, I had one student of mine recently who was listening to a song that started on the 2. And so, like, for instance, that song would be like, all right, I intentionally didn't tell you the key right away. So what key do you think this song in? It's going to test you really quick. What key do you think this is? I know you don't have a lot of information, so I'll play chords to see if you can guess it real quick. Right? So does that give you enough information to know the key right off? Chances are for most people, you picked it up right away. If you have a really, really strong ear and you've worked on being able to hear the key, you will know what key I'm in. But for some of you guys, you're still lost. All right, I give you a clue. I'm starting on the 2, like I said earlier. And we know that D is the 2 of what? It's the 2 of the key of C major. All right, and so I have some bass players that hear that and they would have automatically thought that they were playing in D. And you would have been off, because it would have worked until it didn't work. And this was a conversation that I was having with a bass player, student of mine, that they thought whatever the song or the first note of the song, I thought that's what key the song is in, and that's not always the case. And this happens over and over again. So what can we do to quickly identify that key? Again, first, listen all the way through to the song before you start playing. That way you have a better chance at making the right decision about what the key is. And when I said listen first before picking up your bass, the reason why we do that is because your ear naturally is going to hear where home is. If you have a pretty decent ear, if your ear hasn't quite yet got there, it's a muscle that you have to keep working in order to be able to hear where home is. If I took something simple like roll, roll, roll your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream, and I ask you, okay, what's the home note for that song? Meaning, like, what is the key that the song wants to resolve to? Like you're hearing something and I tell you, give me one note that feels like home for that particular song. most people would choose which they would be right. And so that would be the home key. Now what you do, the exercise you do, is you go to your bass, find out what that is. Okay, so that sounds like B, right? But the problem that I see a lot of bass players do that struggle with this is they start playing first and they listen to all the extra notes instead of using that common sense approach that says, oh, this feels like home, right? And then what if you're wrong? Well, you have to test your theory. You have to test your theory of whether or not that is home. See, if you think this song is in the key of B, then test your theory. One exercise I give my students, take the major scale. Do you hear anything that sounds out of place with the melody of the song that you're hearing? I gave you a simple song because most of the time it's a simple melody that you hear. Even if it's something that they're doing a whole bunch of stuff, they always resolve to a particular note. And most of the time that note is the actual key of the song that you hear either the singer or the instrumentalist resolving to. So again, you want to listen first before you start playing and trust your ear to tell you where home is, right? All right, so really quick, have you ever spent too much time searching for videos on YouTube trying to figure out how to play a certain thing only to waste your time 30 minutes in the search bar to go through 15-20 minutes of a video, and it's not what you need? Many of you guys who follow me and you know about me, you know I make tracks for you to play and jam along to, and I also make these jam tracks, gospel jam tracks, on my site available for purchase. But today I want to give you something for free just for watching this video. I want to give you a dope jam track for you to work out to. Also, I want to give you the actual sheet music and the tab that goes along with it, in addition to the video lesson to break down exactly what I did in the track that you're hearing me play. So you'll hear all of that stuff, and I want to make it available to you because I know it's going to be super valuable for you in your practice time. All you got to do is simply click the link at the end of this video, or you can find a link in the description, or it might be up here on the screen somewhere. So be sure to claim your free bass lesson as well as your tracks and your sheet music so you can continue to grow and unlock your sound. All right, peace. The second point I want to make to you is learn intervals. Be able to hear your intervals, and that's going to require you to know that fretboard or to get more familiar with your fretboard. So if we're in the key of G major, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1, you need to know what those intervals sound like. And you might be asking, well, what does intervals got to do with being able to find a key quicker? Well, if somebody finds something or start playing something really, really quick, and if you know your intervals, even if you play the wrong note first, you can quickly identify what key the song is in. If you're already hearing the melody, you don't struggle as bad with just hearing the key in general. You just don't know where to go because you don't have perfect pitch. Well, being able to know your intervals and being comfortable with your intervals is going to help you quickly get to an answer, because you're probably one half step away if you're knowing all of your intervals. So here's what I mean. Like in the key of G, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1 octave. So just by knowing that, I don't have to even put my hands on the bass, right? If I go to A, right? Just knowing my intervals took me B, right? C, right? Being able to know my intervals is telling me where the key is. And some people might, well, you got perfect pitch. I do not have perfect pitch. Being able to know those intervals is showing me where everything is. So if we're in the key of C, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1 octave, being able to do that. So if a song is in the key of A, for instance, just by knowing those intervals, I know where A is. So if I go 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1 octave. Well, if I know my 6 is A, I can go straight to it. So the same thing if I'm in the key of A, right? And I know I'm giving y'all this stuff pretty quickly, but I'm giving you a quick formula because in service, or you're playing in a church service, somebody starts out with a song, you don't know what key they're in. Well, you don't have time to fish up and down the fretboard, especially if everybody started playing, nobody's telling you the key. How do you find it quickly? Knowing those intervals will help you get to it quicker. So if we're in the key of A, right? And so or you're the first note you play is A, but they're in another key, like they're in B flat, right? You can go to it quickly simply by knowing the interval between each note and the half steps in between those intervals, right? So this is something you can do that's practical, learning what those intervals sound like. When I say intervals, again, it's the distance between the notes in any particular key. So again, doing it in the key of C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1, right? So 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1 octave, right? So being able to do that will help you to get better with hearing where each note is. And so for my third and final point, be aware of your self-talk. The stuff that you say to yourself, well, I can't do it. I can't hear the note. Those things that you say to yourself do affect how quickly you're able to find the key, because in your head, you're thinking that you can't do it. And I know some of y'all might be like, dude, that's not practical. That's not true. You would be shocked at how much the things you say affect what you do, especially when it comes to learning this instrument, the way you talk about it, because you believe what you say. You believe what you say. And it's not a thing where you can't hear it. It's just a thing that's uncomfortable for you or it's unusual to you. And just like my name, if you've never heard the name Jermaine before, until you've practiced saying it, then you haven't got good at saying my name. Or some other names, like when I would do my lives, it would be funny. I would have people from other countries and I would see the spelling of their name. It is not something that I'm used to seeing. And so I would always ask them in the chat, how do you pronounce that? And people will spell it out, the pronunciation in the chat. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got you. I see what you're saying now. It only feels difficult because you're not used to it. Maybe this is not part of your culture. If you grew up in a culture where you heard people just finding the key all the time, or people doing exercises, just brainless exercises that they could find the key, then that becomes part of your culture. And your ear is stronger based on the culture or the environment that you put yourself in. Yeah, if you are tone deaf, that's a completely different case. But there's a quote that I heard a long time ago. I love this quote. It said, where the determination is, a way can be found. And here's how I know this. There's a young lady that I interviewed a year ago on this channel who was deaf. And she plays the bass and can play. Did you hear the first part? She's deaf. And she can play the bass. So if all else fails, ask the key. Ask somebody what key you're in. Lose that pride. Like, I'm supposed to know this. No, lose the pride. Ask the key. One of the things I told a student of mine recently, if you need to, while you're learning, while you're working on all these different exercises, look it up. Look up the key of the song. Ask somebody. If you got a music director, if you got somebody that's close to you, ask them the key of the song. And you keep doing that until you get it. You keep doing these exercises until you get it. Don't say that you can't do it. Know that you can do it, and you'll get faster and faster at it. It's just a muscle, just like working out. It's just a muscle that you have to work and something that you have to learn to do. And over time, it'll become a piece of cake to you, and it won't be something that's as much of a struggle. That's pretty much it for the most part, guys. These are some practical tips that I wanted to give you to be able to hear the key faster. And I believe if you start putting these things into practice, you're going to knock this out of the park with no problem. So if you have any other questions or thoughts, be sure to drop them in the comments. Some of you guys might have some other exercises you might have done that I didn't mention. I'd be interested to hear what you did or what you're working on that's working for you. And if you want more content like this, or if this stuff was helpful for you, be sure to hit that like button. Help me out. And hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber of this channel. I'm bringing videos like this to help you to unlock your sound ultimately. And if you guys wanted to know how to set up the one-time calls with me, you have to be part of my email list to know when I'm doing it. I'm finishing up some calls this week, and I'm going to randomly do it again where I jump on the phone with you, and we're going to do a one-time consultation where I give you some tips on how to improve your playing based on what you have going on. So if this is something that's interesting to you, be sure to sign up for my email list, and we'll set those calls up soon. Anyway, guys, thank you guys. If you want more content from me, JermaineMorgan.net is where you need to go, and I will see you on the next video. I'm out. Peace.